Jervis Bay turnoff where the Princess Highway meets the Jervis Bay Road, and this is the site of an infrastructure upgrade, but most people are thinking that this big area north of the intersection, all this area north of the intersection is and all the land clearing that's going on is part of the upgrade, but it's not. This is all mapped in the Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan and the Shoalhaven Local Environment Plan, and on the Local Land Services State Maps, Biodiversity Conservation Act as habitat, corridors and biodiversity. We've had the most incredible bushfire season down here, and if it wasn't for the Tomarong bushfire fighters and who carry local knowledge about how fire moves through the land, if they hadn't have put in their traditional control line that they've always used through the generations as bush people along St George's Basin, the Beewong Creek, and sent that fire around through Wandambian, around Jervis Bay, this beautiful green refuge for wildlife would not be here, whilst all that blackened area that is going to be in recovery all along the south coast and out into the Budawangs, whilst it's in recovery, these are really important areas. And there's always going to be land use conflicts. Like, some people like to see the land as potential for maybe development of houses or businesses. Some people like to see it as potential for its primary production. But either, and some people like to see it kept as the ancient forest that it's always been, and for its cultural heritage. Because when you mow down the forest like what's going on over there, and clear the big habitat trees that are critical habitat for species on the verge of extinction, well, when the water comes through in the rain events through these beautiful water gardens that all through the seasons are generating wildflowers and fruits and sustaining these incredibly unique species, even tiny little insects and birds and all that. Well, anyway, when you expose all that to the atmosphere, all that soil is going to wash down into the creek, down into the big creek, and there's only one creek, one big one, that flows into Jervis Bay. Jervis Bay has really high quality water because there's no big rivers that flow into Jervis Bay. It's got the widest sands in the world, and it's got huge seagrass meadows. The Marine National Park. The creek just over there is a Marine National Park. Oh yeah, well, because there's always been land use conflicts, back in the 1990s, the developers, the conservationists, the traditional owners, they all sat up in New South Wales Parliament in committee. This is after the Commonwealth Government had a special standing committee and said Jervis Bay is for recreation, not industrialisation. So the New South Wales Parliament said, well, let's work out together through consensus and the civil process in mediation, and let's put a plan out there. So to start the plan, they had a discussion paper called Jervis Bay, Our Heritage, Our Future. And from that discussion paper, from that committee in New South Wales Parliament, came the Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan draft, and and that meant that everyone in the community who had a stake, as a stakeholder with an interest in the Jervis Bay region, they could have input. And then that was legislated as the Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan 1996, and by 2014 it had risen right up to the top in the hierarchy of New South Wales planning instruments to become a state environmental planning policy in its own right. Now 2014, without any community consultation, other than the review process of the Shoalhaven Local Environment Plan 1985, and without due consideration for the equity of people who had followed that Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan in planning and investing for the future, that plan was rescinded. The Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan 1996, which was the New South Wales State Environmental Planning Policy in its own right, was just chucked out the door. And it still exists to a degree, and that's as a sub-clause in the local environment plan. But the local council and the state government produced a strategy to help people understand and envisage the future of the Jervis Bay, and that's called the Jervis Bay Settlement Strategy. I highly encourage you to Google that, the Jervis Bay Settlement Strategy, and get your head around what was envisaged by the generation before us, who were looking at the principles of ecologically sustainable development and intergenerational equity. That means that the Jervis Bay Regional Environment is a livable, beautiful place. I believe that equitably our generation should be looking at those same principles and coming up, not just chucking the old plan out the door, but coming up with a new plan. If the state government and the local government can't handle it, well, maybe the local member, Fiona Phillips, and Andrew Lee, because we've got the Jervis Bay Territory out there. It's a military state, there's no democracy. We're subject to ACT law, but we don't have a say in the ACT Legislative Assembly. That's another issue. But out in the Jervis Bay Territory, it's Savannah, part of Canberra. So Labor there, Labor here. Maybe they're sitting because of their environmental policy. I don't know. They didn't get power up there, but there are legislation being put in place, and existing legislation that exists through John Howard's EPBC Act. Also, I'm pretty sure this is, well, it's allegedly illegal land clearing because it doesn't meet the equity that's within the laws of the Local Land Services Act and the New South Wales Biodiversity Conservation Act. That Gareth Ward, who is the sitting member for this little area right here in New South Wales.
Gareth or Shelley Hancock?
Yeah, no, Shelley Hancock's across the road. This is the borderline. This is Gareth Ward. And I had a chat to him when he was on the side of the road up there at the Rotary Park at South Nowra, and he was really happy with how his government was introducing this new legislation that was looking to answer the Rio Convention on Biodiversity. This was New South Wales State's answer to ecologically sustainable development and intergenerational equity and all those good things, Well, it's always been rural, but so it was rural in 1985 under the Shoalhaven Local Environment Plan. Then came Jervis Bay, Our Heritage, Our Future, a discussion paper. The Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan, the Jervis Bay Settlement Strategy. Then in 2014, during the review process, it was rescinded. The Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan's out the door. It's a sub-clause, so it's still mapped as the Jervis Bay region, and the objectives or the aims are to protect the natural and cultural heritage values of Jervis Bay but because of the like-for-like deal, that's rural in 1985, so it's
Rural now.
in
Yeah.
2014. It's not environmental zoning. The only way it can change to environmental zoning is if there's a planning proposal by Shoalhaven City Council across the whole of the Jervis Bay region to line the zoning up with both the Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan 2014 and the Shoalhaven Local Environment Plan 2014, and all of the aims and objectives of the Jervis Bay Settlement Strategy. And that would mean a planning proposal by Shoalhaven City Council, which was the advice given to me by Shelley Hancock's office yesterday, because I presume that Shelley Hancock was a sitting member here, but it's Gareth Ward. So, Save the Bay, yeah. Yeah, so, Save the Bay, that's the old Jervis Bay Protection Committee, and everyone back in the day,
They remember, people
Save the
remember,
Bay.
yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so this is a 6 strand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a really solid construction job, but if you have a look over that way, it goes right down to the ground, and you know, right up to shoulder height, right down to the ground and right up to shoulder height, and it doesn't allow native species, marsupials, to move through this mapped biodiversity habitat corridor. So whatever's in there now is likely to stay in there, and whatever's outside is likely to stay outside. And once the cattle get in there, then there's going to be adverse impacts to that wildlife and the integrity of that habitat, which is critical habitat for a number of listed Commonwealth and New South Wales species. And you can see that through the operation they've gone outside of their property onto the Crown land, just haphazardly taken out habitat trees, hollow bearing habitat trees. They've actually even poached the standing timbers, because see these ones here, these trees here, they're quite valuable timbers on the common market.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether they've got a licence from the EPA to take timbers or not, but that's not up to me. That's all alleged, and that's all under investigation, I've been assured. And if they've done the wrong thing, they've done the wrong thing, and they'll have to justify their actions in court. Yeah, after this extreme summer event of bushfires, it's been pretty hard to watch these big piles of ancient forest just burning. And yeah, this is 100 acres, like, so it's as far as the eye can see up there. Then it goes right up to the north, all the way across to the west, and in a big full circle. It's about the same size as the Sydney CBD, and there's been no attempt to, control sedimentation of the rivers or creeks or streams, and so this is the Jervis Bay Road here, and it's on the intersection with the Princess Highway out to the west. So if people are concerned about this and don't believe that this is equitable or represents ecologically sustainable development or intergenerational equity, then they can ring the EPA hotline on 131 and just say, look, I don't believe that this is right. Something's not right here. And whether it's legal or not, that's for the professionals to decide. There are officers who are with duties in the Crown of New South Wales that are investigating, but in the meantime work is continuing, so whether you want to call for a stop work until that investigation has an outcome, or whether you know someone who's a barrister or a Queen's Counsel who can go into either the Land and Environment Court or the New South Wales Supreme Court or the Federal Court and say, look, this needs to stop, it's inequitable, and if you don't know those sort of people, then you can write to your sitting member. It doesn't matter where you live in New South Wales or in Australia, because this operation is impacting Commonwealth heritage. It's also impacting state biodiversity conservation laws. And what I was saying earlier was that Fiona Phillips, she's the sitting member for Gilmore. Andrew Lee, he looks after the Commonwealth heritage as the sitting member for Fenner out in the Jervis Bay Territory. Those areas before 2012 were on the Register of the National Estate at the Commonwealth level. Jervis Bay and surrounds automatically went across to Commonwealth heritage over at Beecroft Peninsula to the north and east of Jervis Bay and out into the Jervis Bay Territory. But New South Wales, no sitting member since 1999, when John Howard introduced the EPBC Act following the Rio Convention on Biodiversity at the UN in 1992, has nominated Jervis Bay for the National Heritage List. Not Joanna Gash as the sitting member of Gilmore, not Anne Samalis as the sitting member of Gilmore, and not to my knowledge Fiona Phillips, who as the Labor member for Gilmore was voted in for the Labor Party's environmental policies. And although they didn't get across the line and don't have government, she can still get maybe some grant monies together, maybe call for a public meeting, or sit with Shelley Hancock, Gareth Ward and the local councillors within Shoalhaven City Council and work out what is the future
happening
of Jervis Bay. You know, where is this plan? Where's the old plan, and do we need a new plan? Because the pressures of the city and the world, who all want to come and enjoy the natural and cultural heritage values of Jervis Bay and make a quid along the way, well, they're coming, and you can see that infrastructure heading down the coast. You can see the land use pressures and land use conflicts that result. On me, you can email me, because I don't have a phone, and I'm not on Facebook or Instagram, but that can change. But it's OURBUSHOME, so it looks like Our Bus Home, but it's supposed to be Our Bush Home, at outlook.com. So OURBUSHOME at outlook.com, and I kind of pride myself on it saying in my inbox, hooray, your inbox is empty. If you want to learn more about the aims of the Jervis Bay Regional Environment Plan or the objectives of the Shoalhaven Local Environment Plan 2014 that relate to the Jervis Bay region, then I encourage you to watch a film. You can Google it, and it's called Come From The Land. That will give you a good insight into some of the deep time stories for Jervis Bay.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.